Here with Miami coach Chris Bergeron. The Red Hawks back in action this weekend at Omaha, and we're going to open it up for some questions.
Coach, what's been the message to the team this week?
We have to. I don't want to say get back, Patrick, because we haven't been there, but we have to play to a certain identity that we're trying to create. We weren't even close to hard to play against this past weekend at Denver. So there was and these weren't heart to heart meetings. These were direct and I would say a little bit loud because we need to play better. And unfortunately, when you play as poorly as we played against a team like Denver, you get those two results, which are completely unacceptable. And the one thing we didn't do was respond. Well, now we'll have to respond after two poor games, not just one. We had responded earlier in the year, so there's been a little bit of talk of that. But I think the focus, off the ice and on the ice in practice has been intensity and compete and trying to continue to establish playing the game a certain way.
In terms of that preparation for this weekend, you guys are on the road right now. You stayed in Omaha this week. Is there any benefits to that in terms of maybe just being away, getting out, being with each other in a different setting?
I don't have enough experience with it to say there's benefit. Last year at this time, it led into a really, really poor weekend at St. Cloud. So the 1 year we've done it was the results were poor. It wasn't one where we were going to change it. I still think it's logistically, it's I don't want to say the least number of moving parts, but I do believe it's the easiest way, especially through J term. Our guys would be sitting in their apartment or their dorm really for most of the day anyway. The kids that are taking J term, they can do that from here. So I think getting to Omaha without going back to Oxford and then having to, gather up again and get to Omaha is a good thing. I don't, to answer your question, I don't know if there's benefit to it. I think, we consulted with the players and we as a program felt it was the right thing to do. So we did it.
Coach, trying to, I guess, learn from what happened last weekend as you move into the Omaha weekend, when you go back and look at the series at Denver, was there anything in particular? Obviously, you have to credit Denver. They're an amazingly good team. But was there one thing that you could kind of point to that did or, well, obviously did not go right?
Well, we just didn't defend. We came into this season. I think we came into this opportunity 3 years ago trying to establish an identity when it came to defending and comes to defending, whether it's 5-on-5 or 4-on-5. And we just really haven't been able to do that. So we just didn't defend well. And then I feel like we got caught up in the mental fight that we struggled with for a while. And you start to feel sorry for yourself, especially obviously as the second period, going into the second period, both nights. Even after the first period on Saturday, I thought everything was fine again. You would probably agree with that. Everything was fine. Yeah. We killed a couple penalties. And then we go in the second period and the wheels completely fall off, just like they did on Friday. But as you watch the tape, it just seemed like our lack of defending, even strength or penalty kill wise, was something that stood out. And then what ended up happening was then the compete level fell way off, and then the discipline went away. I mean, we took 3 penalties in the end of the second period, or the end of the basically third period, or 2 penalties. One was an undisciplined penalty by a player. One was too many men on the ice. And both of those pucks ended up in our net. And now a game that, okay, the second period got out of hand, but everything was fine in the third period until the end. And then we take some more penalties. So it's a combination of a couple of things, but discipline, play hard, and defend are 3 things that you can control. And those are the things that stood out to us as we went over the tape again.
And this year in the NCHC, as we kind of look up and down the standings, at least at this point in time in the season, North Dakota is just in front of you in the standings. but maybe near the top. Some people maybe be a little bit surprised. Colorado College might right now be trying to fight for home ice advantage. Omaha, another one of those teams. That's where you're at this weekend. So now you got a team coming off a very big weekend in Omaha. What do you expect from the Mavs this weekend?
Well, I expect them to be flying. Not only are they coming off a good weekend this past weekend, but I think they've played well at home in league anyway, for the most part. So I'm expecting, I've always really liked Omaha's team. I think they're deep. I do think they've had a little bit of turnover, in particular in net. I think they had a goaltender the last few years that they kind of rode a little bit. But they're talented. They've got skill at all three positions. We know. We don't know, again, we don't know much about their goaltending, but we see it on tape, both forward and D. There's names there that we recognize, and we're expecting them to be extremely confident. As you mentioned, they're playing for something in home ice, which I think anybody that's been around the NCHC knows how important that is. And we're expecting another very difficult weekend.